Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to continue on with Polish Beer Month, and I really hope you guys are enjoying this series as much as I am. The standard of these Polish beers is very, very high, but today we have a beer that's half Irish and half Polish, and this is my second visit to both of the breweries involved here. This is a collaboration beer between Carlow Brewing Company and their O'Hara beer range and Browar Pinta, and it's called Lublin to Dublin, and this is the 2015 edition of this beer, a 6% robust milk stout. The 2014 edition, in fact, was actually an oatmeal stout, and it was the first collaboration beer that a Polish brewery did with an international brewery, so really quite an interesting little bit of history about this one. And both these breweries, Browar Pinta and the O'Hara Brewing Company, or Carlow Brewing Company, are one of the more established breweries both in Ireland and in Poland respectively. So two very good breweries coming together here, and they've produced a beer that is rated at 97 on Rate Beer, so it should be a pretty awesome one. This one came recommended, like many of the others, from Pavel at Piwomaniak. Very nice guy, big metalhead just like me. Go and check out his store if you see him in Warsaw. He really knows his stuff about Polish beer, so if you are interested in that at all, do give him a shout. The Facebook link to his shop is in the video description below, so do check it out. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the description below. That's both breweries' websites, the link to my other reviews, both from Carlow Brewing Company and from Browar Pinta. More will be added in the near future, and there's all the usual social media, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd. Please follow me on there, and do recommend some other Polish and Irish beers that you would like me to have a look at. And I do apologise in advance for any bad Polish pronunciations in this video. Polish, as I've said many a time, is probably the craziest language you can ever choose to learn as a non-native speaker. A huge respect to people who actually try to learn that language. It really just is pretty crazy actually, and the Polish people do actually agree with that. But anyway, first of all, to tell you about Browar Pinta. So Browar Pinta were founded in 2011 by Ziemowita Fałata, Grzegorz Zwierzchny and Marek Semla, and apparently they wanted to innovate and diversify the Polish beer industry because it was dominated, like many others, by many of these kind of industrial breweries for a very long time. But these guys are a sort of contract, gypsy, phantom brewery, however you want to call them. They don't own their own brewery, but rather they produce at other people's facilities, and they actually produced their first beer in time for the Good Beer Festival in Wrocław back in May 2011, and it was the success of this beer, the Grzyckie, which you actually saw me review a few videos ago. The success of this beer was really what inspired them to come on and found their own company. And as I've said to you, these guys are probably one of the kind of big boys in Polish craft brewing these days. But Ziemowita is actually the main brewer of the team, and the company now brew most of their beers at Browarce na Jurce in Zawiercie, Śląsk, which is in the southern part of Poland. I think it was in Silesia basically, or what used to be called Silesia, but I think Śląsk is how they say it in Polish. But Marek Semla also collaborated with Tigran Wardikian, who was an Armenian artist living in Poland, and they created a lot of the brewery artwork until 2012, and since then the labels on the beers have been designed by MH Art Studio in Krakow, and you do get some really quite nice artwork with Browar Pinta, especially on their newer beers that they're doing. But these guys are one of the most decorated Polish craft breweries, so if you find yourself starting out with Polish craft beers, Browar Pinta are a very, very good place to start, so do check them out. So that's Browar Pinta. Let's talk a little bit about Carlow Brewing Company. So Carlow Brewing Company are based in Muine Bheag in County Carlow in Ireland, and they were founded in 1996 by brothers Seamus and Eamon Carlow. And over the previous 100 years, there's been a steady decline in the Irish brewing industry, and this was so bad that in the 1980s there were only 3 very large multinational breweries. But this brewery was initially located in the Good Store, which is in the grounds of Carlow railway station, and initially the brewery had a 15 hectolitre brewhouse, and they released their first beers in 1998. This was the Irish Red, which you saw me review before, and the Curim Gold wheat beer. And this was then followed by their Stout in 1999, which has become quite a well-known beer in Irish craft beer circles. But for these beers, they were decorated at the International Brewing Awards in 2000, and initially much of their market base was pretty export orientated, but over the course of the 2000s they were able to expand their capacity at the Good Store. However, they moved to a new brewery in Bennigalstown in 2009, and they produced at the Good Store IPA as their very last brew in the old brewery, and I think you can actually still get that beer today. day. But in 2012 they've also added a new boutique distillery to the brewery, and they began brewing seasonal beers the following year, and they opened their bar called the Brewery Corner in Kilkenny City that year too. So you're talking just kind of pardon me, to the southwest of Dublin a little bit. Very nice part of Ireland. I was there many years ago, so I definitely need to go back. Sorry, I'm getting something just in my throat as I'm filming this beer. But as I've said, the gist of this is that you've got two very good breweries involved here. Browar Pinta from Poland and Carlow Brewing Company and their O'Hara beer range from Kilkenny in Ireland. So do be sure to check out both of these breweries if you haven't already. But let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as I mentioned, this guy is a 6% milk stout, a sweet stout if you want to call it that. But the beer, the first edition of this beer, the Lublin to Dublin, was brewed in 2014. As I mentioned, an oatmeal stout, but this was brewed in Carlow's Brewery in Kilkenny in Ireland, and the recipe was created by Ciarna Kelly and Zimovita Fawata when they brewed together. But the 2014 edition, as I mentioned, was the first beer that a Polish brewery brewed in collaboration with an international brewery. This one contained Polish Marinka and Lubelski hops and also Irish oatmeal malt. And yeah, it was meant to be very nice. It was rated at 99 on Rate Beer. This one is a different edition and it's rated at 97. This one's a sweet stout. The other one is more probably like a kind of Irish dry stout, but an oatmeal stout can be quite different from that. So it should be very nice. On the back here it says, Lublin to Dublin 2015 is the second beer brewed in collaboration between O'Hara's in Ireland and Pinta in Poland. While keeping the theme of a full-bodied stout using ale malt from Ireland and Marinka and Lubelski hops from Poland, this beer also has additions of star anise and lactose sugar to create an entirely different beer. The result is a bold 6% ABV stout. This dark stout has a creamy tan head. On the nose there is coffee, chocolate and licorice combined with a subtle hop aroma. The flavour is rich with coffee and chocolate coming through from the dark malt. This big flavour is backed by a heavy yet velvet-like sweetness from the lactose sugar that gives way to a long finish where the licorice flavour from the star anise becomes more pronounced. And then it says the same thing in Polish, and I'm not going to try to read that because, like I say, Polish is probably one of the craziest languages you're going to come across. Polish, Hungarian, Estonian and Finnish. Those are probably the most difficult languages you are ever going to try and learn in your life, but thankfully I don't think I'm going to have to try those. So as you can see, very nicely presented. You can see Browar Pinta with their nice kind of brewery kettle symbol in there. You can see the sort of Celtic thing from the O'Hara beer range at Carlow Brewing Company. It says on the side here, O'Hara's an independent Irish brewery, Pinta, famous brewery in Poland. Plain bottle cap on this one, very nicely presented. 2015 edition. It says it both in Polish and in English, but it looks very nice. 6% milk stout. So without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting then. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this guy, and you really can smell the sweetness of this one as you open it up. It smells like a very nice beer actually, but that's even without paying too much attention to it. Just let the head build a little bit. There we are, that's probably enough for the moment. There's about 2/3 of the bottle in the glass there. I have to admit, I do like these tulip glasses. They're very good for kind of all-round beers. They're really good taster glasses actually. But as you can see, it's a very nice dark ebony rosewood colour. There's a finger and a half of a frothy beigey tan head there. It looks very, very nice. I'm sure it would have been bigger if I poured the rest of the beer too. If I hold this one up to the light, and I'll just bring the light over a little bit and let you see this, you can see there's not even much colour coming through from this one. It's got a very slight ruby edge to it, but other than that, very, very dark looking beer, just a very slight ruby edge. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks really quite nice actually. Yeah, so do take a little bit of time and just admire the beer before you get stuck in. So in terms of the aroma with this one, you can smell straight off the bat, you can smell the nice lactose sugars in this one. You can smell that this is a milk stout straight up. There's some nice sweet milky chocolate in there. You can smell a bit of a biscuity bread base to this one. There's almost a kind of slightly brown bready character, a little bit of, not quite oatmeal I would say, but you can smell some of this nice almost rye breadish character that's in this beer. When you sugar it up a bit more, you start to get more of a biscuity note out of it as well. You can smell some of that sweet, almost digestive biscuit character. Definitely some brown sugars as well, a little bit of caramel, maybe slightly toasted. Almost has a bit of a kind of cakey bready aroma actually. Reminds me of some of these cakes. Yeah, a nice kind of brown cake in this one. It's got a really nice aroma to it. You can pick up some earthy hop characters as well. Maybe just a little bit of a red candied fruit ester. And I mean, when you've got two breweries such as this involved, you're going to get a lot of things going on in this beer. So do take a little bit of time and just take in all the nice aromas that you're going to get from this beer, especially when it comes to things like stouts. Very nice smelling beer. So yeah, some sweet chocolate, a little bit of dark roasted coffee actually just comes out of this one, but that's quite subtle. It leans more towards the sweet side of things. Some toasted caramel in there. That nice kind of cakey, almost brown bready base to this. Bit of earthy hop as well, some red fruity esters. All in all, a very nice aroma. So take a little bit of time and smell it for yourself. But let's get stuck into this one. So this is the 2015 edition of Lublin to Dublin from Browar Pinta in Poland and Carlow Brewing Company at their O'Hara's beer range from Ireland. Slàinte na zdrowie. Now that's nice. That is really nice actually. Put a little bit more of this in the glass and see how we get on. One of the things that's actually surprised me with that, just on first gasp, or on first taste actually, or first gasp I was going to say, was just, it's actually quite light in the mouthfeel. It's a lot lighter than I was expecting, but it's got a nice creaminess to it as well. Yeah, I think that's maybe just because my mouth has been a little bit dry before I've actually taken this beer in. I should have had a little bit of water before doing the video, but the thing you'll find with this beer, I think the mouthfeel does just thicken up a little bit as you take a few sips of this one. But yeah, that's quite a nice and drinkable stout this. So as you would expect from this one, you've got a nice kind of cakey, brown bready, slightly biscuity malt base, and that just blankets the middle of your tongue. It leans more towards the breadiness, that kind of brown rye bread flavour and cakey flavour. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, there's a little bit of biscuity character, you know, that almost digestive kind of syrupy flavour. That really comes out in this beer, I think. As I always say though, sugar this beer around your mouth and just let your whole palate adjust before you dissect the flavour too much. And as you do that, you'll feel these sweet, chocolatey, milky flavours just building in the middle of the palate. You can feel them sitting there just in the back centre of your tongue, and there's that nice milky chocolatey character. It's very nicely done, this beer. There's a lot going on in it, so just pay attention to it and pick up all the things that are going on. There's a little bit of a nutty flavour coming out in this one for me as well, and you can pick up a little bit of the licorice that they're talking about. You would expect that when they've added aniseed to the brew. Yeah, the aniseed starts to come out more and more as you take a few more sips of this beer. It's really nicely done. I can see why it's rated at 97. As I say though, the mouthfeel for this one, for me, it's got a nice, the grille, it's very light to start with, but then it starts to become very, very creamy, and that's the thing you're going to notice as you take in more and more of this beer. But yeah, pay attention to that malt base in the middle of your tongue. You'll feel all of these flavours I'm talking about running up. The nice cakey flavour, a little bit of the kind of German brown rye bread that you get in there, the biscuity sweetness, a little bit of the toasted, the roasted caramel sugars in there too. You can pick up a little bit of the roasted, almost black malts that are in this beer as well. You can pick those up, but the real thing that starts to build is the creamy mouthfeel, and that's from these lactose and chocolatey sugars. There's a lot going on in the middle of the palate, so just take a few sips and think about this one. As you move out towards the back corners of your palate though, there's a smooth earthy hop character, and as you come further forward it does get just a little bit floral and a little bit grassy. You can feel that around the front curve of your tongue there. So just pay attention to all these little subtle elements in the beer. The main point though is that this is a very nice beer, and if you haven't tried this one, I would recommend that you do. You've got two very good breweries involved here, so you're not going to be disappointed with this one in the slightest. It deserves its rating well into the 90s on Rate Beer. I'm sure it was 96 or 97 that this one had. That website, of course, is always a very good marker for the beer. One of the other things coming out from this beer after a while is that just behind that front curve of the tongue, you can feel a little oily bubble just building there, and that's where you get some of these fruity esters. I'm going to say it's a candied fruit ester, but there is a little bit more of a sharpness to it, maybe some raisins or something like that. You can pick up just a little bit of these candied fruit esters in there, but as you can tell from all the flavours I'm describing in this beer to you, there's a hell of a lot going on. So if you like a nice complex stout beer, sweet stout beer at that, you will enjoy this one. It's quite different, it's more traditional I guess than some of these imperial stouts that you're getting from the likes of Omnipollo these days. And of course Browar Pinta and Carlow Brewing Company produced some really nice stuff. It's like a kind of sweet Irish stout actually. It's got a good combination of some of the Irish dry stout flavours and some of the more sweeter American stout flavours. So if you like both of these styles and you want a fusion, you probably will enjoy this beer. In terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this guy's mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth on this one. It's got quite a creamy mouthfeel. As I said, it comes in light at the start, then it just starts to build up and it's nice and creamy. There is a little bit of dryness to the malt base in this one. You can feel that. That's these slightly coffee-ish and black malts building there. But overall, the malt base is quite sweet. The lactosey sugars, there is a little bit of the aniseed flavour sitting in there as well. But overall, there's a good balance between the dryness and the sweetness in the malt base. The hops tend to be very smooth, just a tiny little bit of dryness around the front curve of the palate there, and just behind the front tongue, of course, there's a little bit of fruity character. But overall, the mouthfeel, it's fair to say, mid-bodied, very smooth, quite creamy stout. So yeah, overall, this is another very, very good Polish beer. I'm really glad that I got the chance to try this one. Hopefully, I can try the 2016 edition when it comes out, because apparently both of the beers that they've produced in this collaboration have been really good, so hopefully it happens for many more years to come. So as I said, if you enjoy Irish dry stouts and you enjoy the American sweet stouts, this one is somewhere in between both of those. Two very good breweries involved here, so don't hesitate to check out. In my opinion, fully deserving of its very high rating that it has on Rate Beer. So do check this one out. So this was the Lublin to Dublin beer from O'Hara's in Ireland and Browar Pinta in Poland. Go and check it out. As always, if you have tried this beer yourself, please let me know in the comments section below your own thoughts on it. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos. If you're watching in Poland or in Ireland, do recommend some Irish and Polish beers for me to try. Hopefully I can get a hold of them. It's quite hard to get the Irish ones, but I do have a fair stockpile of Polish ones in the meantime. But thank you again for watching. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and check out my social media things, but most importantly, go and check out Carlow Brewing Company's O'Hara beers and Browar Pinta from Poland. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I will catch you again soon. Go and check out Lublin to Dublin, very nice sweet stout brewed in Ireland. Slangy just now.